Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming to this last session of the day and last session of the week. Today, if you have an application that you want to deploy at scale, worldwide, and have your end user enjoy the same experience around the world, you probably face a hefty investment up front. What I want to show you today is how to alleviate this investment or completely eliminate it, if possible, in some cases. My name is Remy, and I'm the program manager on the Silverlight streaming service by Windows Live. What I will do today is give you a bit of a Silverlight streaming overview so you know what the service is about. I will tell you a bit about the availability of the service, how to use the service, and how people have already used it. Of course, show you all the goodies we have in store for you for MIX08, and we'll do a bunch of demos to show you how all those things actually work, and a bit about the business model and what's in store for this service going forward. So, Silverlight Streaming is a Windows Live companion service to Silverlight. What we want to do is complement the experience you have and make it easier for you to onboard Silverlight and all the cool Silverlight technologies you've been hearing about this week by providing you the service component that you need for your application deployment. You focus on the end user experience, we focus on the scale. You focus on what you do best. You create the application, and we deliver the backend, the storage, and the streaming. We do the heavy lifting. And this starts with a free account with 10 gigabytes of storage. Of course, when you think about what Reyozi has been saying about the software and services vision, this is exactly what it's about. You've got the Silverlight companion service on one hand, and you've got the Silverlight runtime on the client on the other hand. Availability of the service. For those of you who remember, we launched this service as an alpha version last year at MIX07 on the 30th of April. And that was a great step forward, but there was still a lot to do. Today, I'm happy to say that we're maturing and we graduated to the beta. And even though we're an beta today and we were an alpha in the last 10, 11 months, we have a bunch of real-world applications that were created using the service. And I want to show you some of those. There's a Halo 3 video player and the Halo 3 interactive game manual. Those two applications reflect very nicely some of the scenarios that you can support today with Silverlight streaming service. You have on one hand the player, a very slick application fully hosted on the web server along with the rest of the page, only fetching content, heavy content, large video files from the Silverlight streaming service. The Halo 3 interactive game manual is in fact an application that's hosted part and parcel. The files composing the application as well as the content, everything is hosted in Silverlight streaming, and everything is fetched and displayed in an iframe on the website where they want to expose the application and make it consumable by end users. The Quicksilver Pro France application, for those of you who know about this event, it's a pretty big surfing event in Europe, which took place in France last year, and the French DPE team created this application which has a portion of user-generated content website aspect to it, and another part which is entirely about video and metadata provided by a professional crew. So the professional crew on site would film the event and slice and dice the content to provide all the information on the event, which surfer, which wave, which leg of the competition, providing all the metadata about the surfer, the previous events, and whatnot. And on the other hand, you had a part of the website which was entirely for the users who looked at the event, who partake in the event, who could post pictures of the event of their own. And all that stuff was nicely bundled in a Silverlight application, and all the content, photos, and videos were hosted on Silverlight streaming. Finally, two things that I want to call out which were created in the UK. One is the Films for Learning application, and the other is the Fifth Medium. Both those applications use Silverlight streaming for storing content, videos, and photos, and again, use Silverlight for creating the web client application that is consumable by the end users. So again, you can see here that you have a wealth of applications around the world relying on this service that leverage the capacity it has to deal with heavy content and provide streaming around the world with low latency. What I also invite you to do is look at the dev.live.com portal, where you will see all the quick applications that allow you to leverage the code that has already been written. For example, the Films for Learning application, which is a real-world application, has been created entirely with the video.show quick application. So you can download the code, you can see the application fully functional on Quick Apps, and then make the code your own, leverage it, tweak it, customize it, and build your own application using that code. Using the service, there are 5 easy steps to using the Silverlight streaming service. The first one is you need to sign up for a Silverlight streaming account. And to do that, you need to have a Windows Live ID. Remember, you don't need to have a hotmail.com or msn.com or live.com email address to have a Windows Live ID. You just need to associate your Passport, your existing email address, to a Windows Live ID, formerly known as Passport. Or, of course, you can create a new one. The second thing is you create a Silverlight application, and this is where you, the developers, are going to do what you do best. We are not going to help you on that way. This is the client-side part of the process, where you create the application, where you create the web application, where you focus on the end-user experience. The third thing is when you start interacting with the service again, we will have you package the application files, create a manifest, zip everything together, and upload it into the Silverlight streaming service. Once this is done, you still have to create the web page where you want to expose this application and make it consumable by end users. If you upload the experience, if you upload the application on the Silverlight streaming service, there is still no end user experience. This is still a mechanism for the developer. Now you still have to make it consumable and expose it on your website. So, what am I proud to announce for MIX08? There is quite a number of things that we did in the last 10 months since we launched the service as an alpha. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is that we graduated to beta. There is a promise of scalability. There is a promise of longevity in terms of API. And what we did also is really increase the free account and the free quantities you get, both in terms of storage and in terms of bandwidth. Storage, we went from 4 gigabytes to a free 10 gigabytes of storage. In terms of upload, we had a very constraining limit, in particular for video files, which could quickly exceed that limit. We have bumped up that limit to 105 megabytes per file, and this pretty much equates to a high quality video stream for 10 minutes. Previously, the encoded bitrate that we allowed was 300 kilobits per second, and now we allow up to 1.4 kilobits per second, 1.4 megabits per second. That's 1400 kilobits per second, 10 minutes video playback. That means some pretty hefty quality on the internet today. In terms of API, we have greatly enriched the API. We relied on REST, four verbs previously: put, post, get, and delete. We have enriched that API, and we're using WebDAV and supporting out of the box a wealth of new verbs now for your API. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a promise of scalability. We're running on production hardware. We've got a bunch of people with pagers looking at the boxes becoming hot or not. It's not just me with my cell phone anymore. Now, all this and more. We have created a brand new video service, turnkey scenario on the administration website. So previously on the administration website, and I'll show you this in a minute in the demo section of the presentation, you could only manage your applications. Now you have a turnkey scenario to manage videos, which means that you can go to the admin website and upload a video and get at the end a canned player which will be hosted in Silverlight streaming, and that's all you have to do. It's ready to embed in your application, on your blog, on your website, wherever you need it. For that, we provide you transcoding in the cloud. We give you a white label player, no brand attribution to Microsoft, no brand attribution to Windows Live. It's a Silverlight player. It's an out-of-the-box experience. As I said, you can take it as is, and you can put it wherever you need it, on your blog, on your website, etc. However, we left it fully customizable. It is there for you to customize if you want to. So if you first upload a video and consume the canned player to begin with, you can later go back and make it your own and put your own skin on that video and still use the video that we transcoded for you. We support a wealth of input format, and we output a high-quality Silverlight-compliant format using the VC1 codecs for you. We have a new invocation syntax. We preserved the iframe invocation syntax, and we introduced a Windows Live control syntax. For those of you who are familiar with the Windows Live family of controls, there's a bunch of JavaScript controls for presence or contacts or photos that allow you to embed richly in your application, in your web application, controls that interact with Windows Live APIs. Well, we have increased that ecosystem by adding a Silverlight streaming control to the family. And I will show you how to actually invoke a Silverlight application hosted in Silverlight streaming using a Windows Live control. By virtue of using this Windows Live control, you will have a much nicer and much smoother Silverlight deployment experience. If the client, if the browser hitting your application does not have the Silverlight runtime installed, then there will be a much smoother installation experience for you to provide to the person hitting your application on the internet in order to get the Silverlight runtime installed on their machine. I'll show that as well. In terms of reporting, there are two things that were really used, that were really lacking, and that a lot of people asked us to use the service. The first one is the number of plays, the hit count, the number of invocations. How many times is an application that you have hosted in the Silverlight streaming service being used? How many times did people play back your video? So that's the first thing. This is there now, and I'll show you where. And then there's a storage meter. How much space you have left in your account based on how many applications you have uploaded there. This is now very explicitly visible on the admin website for you to check out. Okay, so now I'm going to show you all those things. I'm going to start with the administration website overview to show you a little bit everything you can do on the admin website. Of course, remember, everything I'm going to show you here you can do from the API as well, but I want to show you from the admin website what is possible in the service. So, the first thing, remember, is you need to get provision for an account. So you have to go to silverlight.live.com, and this is where, very obviously, you will have the Get It Free button to map your Windows Live ID to a Silverlight streaming account. If you don't have a Windows Live ID, then you're prompted to create one. I'm not going to babysit you through those steps. I assume you know how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. Now, however, if you have a Windows Live ID, you can just sign in the service, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to use my Windows Live ID, which has already been provisioned with a Silverlight streaming account. As you can see, because I entered the site with the Get It Free button, I can see here I'm landing directly on the Manage Account page. And what this is very simple is two parameters. The first one is an account ID, which is public, and you will see how we have to use it in the playback experience when you invoke an application from Silverlight streaming. The other one is the account key, which is private. This is the account key that will authenticate you and which will enable you to interact with the API when you want to do any operation programmatically, besides GET, that is. Of course, for example, like now, this session is being recorded, so when I'm done with the session, I can regenerate my account key and preserve the safety of my account and the applications in my account. The second thing is how to manage applications. What you can see here, let me refresh this, here we go. What you can see here is a list of applications. So first of all, we have enhanced the UI, and you have a grid, and you can see what I mentioned about the reporting. You see the hit count here. That's the number of times each application has been invoked by someone, wherever it is that I exposed it, on my blog or on my website or elsewhere. This is the space used by each application, and this is a total space used up and remaining into your account. Now, as before, for a given application, you can look at it. This is annoying. Here we go. You can look at it, and for each application, you have the possibility to upload an updated application with the same name. That means that you reserve the file set in the database for that application, and you can upload a package, a zip archive, with updated application files. You can delete it, and we have added a prompt to confirm whether you want or not to delete the application. Remember, if you delete, the application is gone for good. There's no way to retrieve it. It cannot be undone. And as before, we have the launch application test page operation, which is there for you to view the application as it would be displayed on your website, on your blog, wherever you choose to expose the application. You will all recognize this application from the Grand Piano app of the Silverlight SDK. And it's, fully functional there, as you can see. This is an application running from Silverlight Streaming and delivered locally from the closest point of presence near to where we are now. You also have on the application the two different ways of embedding the application. As I mentioned, the iframe, which is really the preferred way of embedding an application on a website, and the new Windows Live Control application. I will get into those into more detail once I'm done with my overview of the administration website. Now, the next thing I want to show you on the admin website is the new video management scenario. So there's a video UI which you will see is very similar to the Manage Application UI. And the other thing is, how is the player that you get from Silverlight Streaming looking like, and how you can use it to put it on your website. So let's switch back to the website again. Here we are. This is the new UI that you will see from now on. And again, as I mentioned, it's a very, very similar UI to the Manage Application. You see two grid controls, and you will see why in a minute. You have a list of applications, the hit count for each application, and the size each application is using, and the total space remaining. Now, when I go to upload a video, I simply have to browse to the video file. So I'm going to take a video file that will have to be transcoded, like this sample MOV file that I just got. And I'm going to give it a name, MOV at MIX08, and upload. What happens now is I'm pushing the video file to the transcoder. It's being transcoded, and this is where the other grid comes into play. Okay, we have a refresh rate on that page. Because it's a small file, I'm just going to refresh again quickly. Here we go. The video has been processed successfully, and you can see that as soon as I acknowledge the process, then it's being added to my list here. MOV at MIX08. This is the one. It has 0 hit count because I just transcoded it. Nobody viewed it yet. So let's go and see what I can do there. Because there's the first time I see this page here. Oh, this is really annoying. Here we go. The first time I see this page, I have to click for the preview. And this is the count player that you get hosted in Silverlight Streaming, playing directly there from the website. We have disabled autoplay, so this is why you have to actually click to play the video. And because it is Silverlight player, you can go into full screen by double-clicking on the video while it's playing. There you go. And that is the iframe embed code that you can copy and make use of in your website, in your blog, wherever it is that you need to expose that video within the player. Let's go back to the deck. Here we go. So you can see now how we have introduced this turnkey scenario, because it was very obvious from the usage we saw of the service when we launched it as an alpha that video really deserved to be treated as a first-class citizen. Silverlight 1.0 has a wealth of feature and is really rich and really strongly used for video in general over the internet. Silverlight 2.0 added this wealth of features for video as well, so we decided to support video in a particular way in the Silverlight streaming service as well. The next thing I'm going to show you is the invocation syntax. As I mentioned earlier, there are various ways to invoke an application from the Silverlight streaming service. The first one is the iframe. The second one is the Windows Live Control. I'm going to show you both. In their manifestation, you will see very little difference, if any, from the website perspective. It's just an app rendering on the page. The beauty is really the simplicity of the invocation, is how to make it trivial for you to expose an app on your website from the Silverlight streaming service. The first one I'm going to show you is the iframe invocation syntax. Here we go. So this is running from an external website, and as you can see, it's a very simple. It's a Hello World app from the SDK, but the point here is not to show the complexity of the application. The point here is to show that you can run an application, a Silverlight application from this service. I showed you video. Video is easy to create, and I will show you how easy it is to do video end-to-end from the raw video footage to the website. But I really want to emphasize that the Silverlight streaming service is about Silverlight applications, not just videos. It's about apps. So this is an application. And of course, what I want to show you is how we do that. Well, this is the iframe invocation. As you can see, it is very simple. This is the iframe embed code that you would see on the web page, where you have the account ID. This is why I said it was public, because you can see that we need it in the playback, in the invocation experience, in this URL that is public for anyone to see. This is the file set that tells me which application in my account I'm going to fetch and display on that page. And then you can see here the other parameters of the iframe that I want to show, whether I want a frame border, whether I want to allow scrolling or not, and the width and height of the iframe. And I can change that on the fly, and you will see how immediately I can reflect, by updating server side my page, I can see on the browser the page being updated with a new application. So here I simply replaced an app, and I can change the dimensions of the iframe here, for example, so you will see how interactive that is. This is basically the iframe in which I'm rendering the application from Silverlight Streaming. Now, the other one I want to show you is the new control invocation syntax. Here we go. Again, this is a video. There's no audio, so that's why you're not hearing anything about it right now. Again, very simple to see the result here, and the beauty is the simplicity, as I mentioned. This is what you have to do. The first thing is you have to add the dev.live.com namespace to your HTML page. Now, the other thing you have to do is add those two scripts, live.js and controls.js, to the header of your page. If you already have controls on your application, be it the presence control or the contacts control or the photos control, then you will not have to do these two steps, because we have already made those scripts cognizant of the new Silverlight streaming controls. So if you already use controls, you already have the capacity to include a Silverlight streaming control on your page. However, if you don't, you will need to do those two steps. And then thirdly, this is where you embed the control on your page. And you see it's very simple. Again, you specify the version of the Silverlight runtime you need to run this application on the page. This is the account ID in which the application resides. This is the file set name of the application. And this is the various installation modes that you will have available at your disposal in this new control. Inline, which means that you will see the little medallion to install Silverlight runtime straight within the iframe on the page. There's another installation mode called pop-up, which will overlay the whole page with layer to allow the client to install the Silverlight runtime. And then there's the last one, which is none, which basically caters for the scenario where you don't want the user to download the Silverlight runtime if they don't have it already, in case they hit the application page. So let me put it back to inline. It doesn't really matter because the runtime is already installed on that machine. And you can see here, remember, this is a Silverlight player, so if I double click on it, I have the full capacity of the player, whichever one I chose when I encoded this application. And like before, I can change this. I can take my Hello World application that I was using before, and you will see that I can refresh on my client side, and I see the Hello World application there. And it's using directly the canvas size defined in the application, because I didn't define any in the control. I also have the possibility to define a width and a height when I create that control. There you go. So these are the two preferred ways of invoking an application from Silverlight Streaming, one which existed before, the iframe, and a new one, the Windows Live Control, which expands the family of already existing controls for Windows Live. Now, the next thing I want to show you is the end-to-end video blogging scenario. A lot of people here and a lot of people whom I saw use the service in the alpha stages of the service use it for video. And a lot of them write blogs, contribute to blogs, or even rely on blogs as part of their day-to-day job. So this is a scenario that will illustrate how to use Silverlight streaming, how to use Expression Encoder, and a couple plugins that are publicly available for download in order to fulfill this end-to-end scenario, starting from raw video footage on one hand to a fully finished product exposed to the world on the other. So I have open Expression Encoder. I'm using the video from Vista. I provide my account ID and I provide my account key here. This is where I'm interacting between the Expression Encoder application and the Silverlight streaming plugin. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a template, say console, to have a fairly recognizable one, and I'm going to encode this video using this template. Now let's see the settings. You can do a wealth of things which I'm not going to get into. I'm going to keep the source profile and do the encoding. So actually the video is a bit too big, so let's go smaller. I want to make sure that we have not too much time spent on that. Now, while this is processing, I'm going to show you one thing here in the plugin. The video is encoded here, is being encoded, and now the plugin with my credentials can interact with the API of Silverlight streaming to see what's going on in my account. So here, if I hit refresh, there's an interaction going on between Expression Encoder and Silverlight streaming. And you can see that it's actually looking at all the applications that I had in my account. Okay, the other thing is I can preview those applications right there and then inside the plugin. So I can see here what is going on in my application, in my account, while the encoding is taking place. Now, as you could see, the encoding is finished. The application is running locally to see that everything is fine. I see my video, I see the skin there, and everything is okay. So now what I want to do is publish this application to my account in Silverlight streaming. So it has my credentials already, remember, account key, account ID. Now I'm going to go to publish, and I'm going to choose the automatic naming. So quick feed playback to silverlight.live.com. I look at my applications, and you can see here I have that X encoder app 0 and that X encoder app 1 there, and that from previous encoding. So I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to go publish. What it does is it takes the output of Expression Encoder, trims all the files it doesn't need, for example the HTML or the project template file, packages in a zip archive all the JavaScript file, the XAML, which contains the player with the skin and all that good stuff, creates the manifest, which is predictable and systematic, and zips it up and publishes it into my account using my credentials. Now you can see it's done. I see the preview exactly from this little browser session there hosted in the Expression Encoder, and I can see the embed code, the iframe with my account ID, with the new application name Xencoder App 2 here, and looking at my application list, if I refresh, I'm going to see Xencoder App 2, which, let me check that out. If I launch an application test page, let's click on it, is going to be the console player that I chose in Expression Encoder. Oh, here it is. And previously it was running locally from my machine. Now you can see it's running from silverlight.live.com. It's no longer running from my machine. And this is the application name that was given by the plugin to this video. Now, I have taken my video footage. I've used Expression Encoder to encode it to my liking, and I've used the Silverlight streaming publishing plugin to publish it from Expression Encoder to my account into Silverlight streaming. Now I want to put it on my blog. This is my blog as it looks like right now, and you can see the last blog post there. hello AZ groups. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Windows Live Writer. Windows Live Writer is a rich client application that you can download for free from get.live.com. And if you do any kind of blogging, I really, really recommend that you get that one because it's actually very easy to use and very powerful. It allows you to create some rich text editing in a much more intuitive way than you would otherwise be able to do on your blog provider editor. So what I'm going to do here is embed my application from Silverlight Streaming into my blog post and post it to my space directly. So this is the MIX demo. Now I'm going to just type some text here, but what you can do is type your whole blog post in Windows Live Writer. Here's some text. Here is some more text. And here is the Silverlight Streaming application. Now, by virtue of the plugin that I talked about and that I provided the download link for in the appendix, I can insert a Silverlight Streaming application. It's the same principle as in the Silverlight Streaming publishing plugin of Expression Encoder. I have to provide my account ID and my account key to access my account in the Silverlight Streaming service. And the same thing happens. I see a list of all my applications there, and I have a preview there. I can play them back in this little browser preview here. Now, remember, I just encoded the butterfly with the console application, and this is what I want to embed in my blog post. So I'm going to select that one, click OK, and boom. I pick the iframe, I put it in my blog post. I can continue to edit here. Here's additional text, and now I'm done. So I'm going to publish this now to my Windows Live space. Part of using the Windows Live Writer application is that you create an account and you define the account credentials. So prior to this demo, I created my account, and I have the handshake between Windows Live Writer and my public space. So it knows who I am. It has my credentials to publish my application. And here you can see this blog post going live on my Windows Live space with the application running from Silverlight Streaming. And again, this is a Silverlight player, so I can go full screen if I so choose, depending on the settings you chose when you encoded the video at the first place. Now, if you look at the HTML code of this blog post, this is where you will see the iframe settings, and you will see how easy it has become to edit this directly on your space once it's done. This is my iframe here in my div tag of my blog post. Here we go. Now remember, I had an application called Hello World. I can use that and type it here, and let me save this, and you will see how immediately it's gonna refresh on my blog post to show you that this scenario applies to videos. So if you create a screencast, a webinar, or other demo that you want to actually videotape and display on your blog post, it's easy to do. But it also works with a Silverlight application. This is not a video, this is a Silverlight app running from Silverlight Streaming and shown on your blog. All right, let's go back to the deck. This is an application that has been created by our friends at Medallic. And for those of you who saw Danny's presentation yesterday, they do a wealth of stuff with Silverlight and Silverlight Streaming. This application is still development code, and I'm going to have to uninstall Silverlight 1.0 and install 1.1 in order to show it to you. We're still in the process of porting the code to Silverlight 2. So here is, let me close all my browser sessions. That's going to be better. For Silverlight installation, I'm going to install 1.1. And once it's done, I will show you this really cool application. It's a rich commerce application which presents a purchase catalog in a completely different way. We wanted to have the whole experience focus solely on the content. It's as immersive as it can be. and the whole content is displayed in video form. And let's hit the application. All right, so here we go. This is, as I said, let me get some more real estate there. This is an application that is meant to be an immersive commerce application with all the focus on the content. As you can see, everything here is built with Silverlight, all right? Everything. Now, you can see here the first thing that appears is a TV wall with 16 videos running as one background. This is the first item in the catalog, the first item in the first catalog that we want to show. Now, the second thing is I'm going to start moving in. If I move in, you can see here the first item that we're looking on at the TV wall becomes the focus of the first video. And this is the second item in the catalog. And this is the third item in the catalog, and so on and so forth. So very intuitively, as I look at the various items of the catalog, the video fades to black in the background on the TV wall, and I can see a particular item here that I can focus on. While I'm doing this, you can see that the big video on the background cycles through. It cycles through the first, second, third video of each item in the catalog. And when I click on a particular item, it takes center stage. It takes center stage, and I can hover over the item and see the details about this particular item. Again, move out, move in, move out, move in, and then move out altogether. This is how the experience allows you to intuitively pick something in and then either get more information about it, pin it on your dock, on the TV wall, or actually proceed to purchasing it. Now, you can see that we have included various catalogs there. We have a shopping cart view, and we have the integration with Windows Live ID, which takes the account from your passport, from your Windows Live ID, when you get to the shipping part of the experience. And you can get back to the TV wall as before. All the video content here, all the rich catalog is hosted in Silverlight Streaming. The application is developed with Silverlight. And again, you can see this nice integration of Silverlight, the runtime, Silverlight, the technology and the development tools, and the service on the other hand. All right, now let's go back to the deck. Okay, now what is the business model of this service? When we launched it as an alpha last year, we knew that it was going to be ad funded. This is the primary means of monetizing the service. Right now, it's free, and it became free for more. When we launched it, you had 4 gigabytes free storage, you had a certain number of bandwidth, and now we bumped that up to 5 terabytes of aggregated bandwidth per user account per month. This is 10 minutes video playback at 1.4 megabits per second, up to 1.4 megabits per second, and you can have about 50,000 streams per month. This is where the equivalency comes from. Going forward, we want to make it free with advertising. Above a certain threshold, you will see advertising into the playback experience. Basically, if your application becomes very successful, we will contact you, and we will have to get into some partnership of some kind, either with advertising in the playback experience to offset the cost of running the service, or with a nominal fee that remains to be determined. Finally, going forward, we want to have some pay-for services, more storage, more bandwidth, some specific services. For example, we recently introduced the transcoding in the cloud service for a particular scenario that may become a value in its own right. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. For now, it's still free for all. Use it and leverage it. As part of the going forward and the short-term future of introducing advertising in the playback experience, what I want to announce here is a pilot program that we will be launching in the US only about mid-spring. What we want to do is have a video scenario only, this new video management scenario that was introduced for MIX08, and have part of the experience be that you get text-based advertising injected in the CAN player based on keywords that you provide when you upload the video. This is for real. This is real advertising coming from the Microsoft Ad Center platform. This is the player that I showed you earlier on that will be hosted on Silverlight Streaming, and it's real money. It's not funny money. If you accrue enough money, there's a certain threshold above which you get actual payouts, and those payouts are in US dollars. There is a web interest form that you're invited to register interest on, and basically based on the pool of applicants who will handpick a couple hundred accounts from this pool of accounts to start the pilot program with and get the first phase of this program launched. Now, I will be in the open space after the presentation to continue the conversation on whatever questions you may have, either talk more about the Ads Pilot program, go more in depth in the architecture, or show you all the demo script details. There's a wealth of information in the appendix that I invite you to check out when you get the deck available. All the demo scripts are there should you want to dig further into that. All the quick app links are actual links to the applications on the dev.live.com portal. And the web interest form, of course, should you want to register for this pilot program for advertising that will start mid-April. Okay? That's all for today. I would like to thank you again, and I'll be taking questions now.